After taking the academic requirements for both masterate and doctorate degrees, there is academic requirement for both degrees in order to finish the said degrees. First, we have thesis writing and dissertation for doctorate. For thesis writing, as a masteral requirement for the degree, Master of Arts, Master of Science, and other types of degrees, you have to finish or complete the thesis writing. When I speak about thesis writing, this is an example of scholar works. This is an example of academic writing because you're not supposed to be entitled for the pertinent requirements in obtaining a certain degree for graduate school students. So there are two different categories for graduate school students in order to earn the masterate degree and the doctorate degree. First, we have the thesis writing program. This require you to submit or complete a thesis or research paper. And the non-thesis program includes you have to submit undefensible thesis, complete set, plus a unit for computing or compute and technology. So if the thesis program has 39 to 42 units, non-thesis program will be 45 to 48 units already. Before, it was only 36 units for thesis program. Then for non-thesis, 39 units. But because of technology, more the modernification, modification, I mean, the commission higher education includes very much the importance of technology nowadays in writing in graduate school students for to pursue further studies. So this is just encouragement or enrichment program for the students non-computer graduate students in their undergraduate bachelor's degree. So the thesis program will now give you the learning experience of being masterate student. This is a very significant international agreed upon frameworks. What does it mean? So every commission of higher education in the world or higher education learning institutions in short, they have their own framework. They have their own capstone format, I mean, in writing their thesis requirement. The fulfillment of the thesis and capstone project requirements to be a major stumbling block among many students, both college graduate students and as well as postgraduate students. Competing for decades, the research and capstone project requirements have challenged students. These students have sought the help of busy professors and accessible libraries and unskilled research assistants with varied successes. Therefore, if you're a student in graduate school, you're supposed to be lively user at all times because the library is just the milestone resources for your research paper. Any kind of paper can do for the meantime in the bachelor's degree. But some universities now strictly follow a quality research paper so that in the next level, I mean in the graduate school level, you are you have to practice the standard research making. Educators have recognized that the writing process can benefit substantially from the use of examples and illustrations to assist the learner in increasing their own work, especially when a research study must meet particular format characteristic format criteria. In the Philippines, there were many agenda to be considered in writing research paper, but because of this development in the technology, they phased out again their agenda 10 years ago back. So there are also developments, updates. I mean, in the bachelor's degree, your requirements is no longer a descriptive research paper, but it is more on experimental. Now, in the graduate school, it's still experimental, but it is more on depth study. What does it mean when you say on depth study? These are studies that can be recognized by the Commission of Higher Education, Department of Science and Technology, and other government agencies because these are sponsoring bodies. Now, a lot of thesis writing and methods of research books are available in the bookstores. However, most of them cover social and education researches. As I said, there are agenda updates in making research paper to be presented in the panels. However, they are re- you know encouraging people, especially in writing research, thesis or dissertation, to be immense in science and technology in the different agendas. For I'm very sure that this Commission of Higher Education tends to help students or sponsor their thesis writing allowance, dissertation, Stephen, for further, you know, higher order thinking skills requirement in writing their thesis, their dissertation. What does it mean? Before, as you can see, there are many descriptive researches in the library. What happens to those research bound inside the shelves of the library? They left behind. They do not like to read because almost all researchers there stuck inside the library were all descriptive in nature. More so, if you try to compare the experimental research and the descriptive research, experimental has a lesser number, while descriptive are more than enough to say full numbers already. So, what happens if you try to examine? You will notice that Students try to make the research paper as a requirement only, as a requirement, but they do not consider also the quality of the research, the quality of the research paper. So, higher education institutions should see to it that the product before the graduation of these grad students can now apply what they have learned from their methodology. You know, this is already what you call application of what you have learned in education and technology. What does it imply if we have so many descriptive researches inside the library? What does it mean? You're just describing. What about experimentation? Experimenting. What about those researches that are marketable in the unending challenge wording? Because nowadays, almost all universities outside the Philippines, outside Asia, have experimental in nature researches. Of PTs in the Philippines, they're only in the first level of research. What about in the second level? What about in the third level? But how can you proceed to the second level if the first level is very poor researches, very poor? What does it indicate? How do you solve for research paper that is only one setting, that is only one, you know, the same pattern, the same subject matter, the same subject location, and so on, the same variable, the same set of questionnaires. I don't know, more or less. Let's take the standard of research making. Let's take the requirement for research, for thesis, for dissertation. Department of Education encourages students and teachers in making research, particularly in the senior high school. But what do they produce? Descriptive research. Because they lack of facilities, equipment, technological equipment, laptops, mobiles, and other technology does not agree that we